Hey everyone, welcome to our Asset Management Friday segment of the Passive Income Through Multifamily Real Estate podcast. I'm your co-host, Kyle Mitchell, also joined by Gary Lipsky. This segment is focused on educating operators, building better systems, and becoming a best-in-class operator. Since we are also live on Facebook right now, make sure to type in any questions you have in the comment section below. Also, be sure to check out our Facebook group, Passive Income Through Multifamily Real Estate. All right, today on the show, we have Ben Suttles. Welcome, and thanks for being on the show.
Hey guys, how you doing today?
Doing well, thanks. If you can start by telling the listeners a little bit more about yourself and what you currently do.
Yeah, so Ben Suttles. I'm a co-owner of Disrupt Equity. The other owner being Ferris Musa, which some people might know. We're based here in Houston. We mainly specialize in multifamily. We're getting into some other commercial asset classes in the future, though. Our portfolio is about 1,500 units. We've owned about 1,800. We've sold about 300 last year and the year before. And those are going to be in Texas and in Georgia.
Well, welcome, Ben. Let's talk about generating income today. Besides your increases, what has been your number one income boosting strategy?
So we specialize in workforce housing, so class B and C stuff, right? So you'll get into a lot of these properties where they're just collecting rent and the standard other income stuff, right? Think late fees, think month-to-month fees, think NSF fees, that type of stuff, right? But where the real money is when you start billing back utilities, right? So think of anybody that lives in a Class A property, right? You're getting a bill for your rent, you're getting a bill for your water, you're getting a bill for your sewer, your trash, and your pest, right? In some of these markets, not all, and you have to really kind of do the demographic work and shop your comps and see if they're doing it as well. If you can also do a rent pop and introduce this to boost your other income. And really where we've seen the biggest boost is going to be the water and the sewer. So, it takes a little bit of time to penetrate that because you got to figure, right? You can't just start off and say, okay, I own a 200 unit property. Everybody now has to start paying water and sewer. It doesn't work like that. It has to be a part of the lease. So you have to kind of churn through that. And, some people will fall off, new people will come in. And each time you're introducing, hey, this is going to be a part of what we're going to bill you on a monthly basis. So that's probably been the biggest boost.
And, to get everyone onto the rubs, does that take a year and a half? What do you budget?
It's usually 18 months, right? Because you're going to have a little bit of lag time, just getting it rolled out and getting the right, systems in place. And so I always tell people, plan for 18. If you could do it in less, around 12, then you're doing a good job. But sometimes you're just going to have wonky leases that might be a little bit longer, or it took your team a couple months just to kind of really rev up and get penetration on doing it. And you got to set it up. Usually they're going to be done through third parties that have calculations that are kind of, pursuant to the local laws and the regulations that you have to do, because each state is different, right? Certain states only allow you to bill up to, I'll just throw random percentages out there, up to 50% of the water bill. So say, the property is getting paid $10,000, the bill to the property is $10,000. You can only bill out to the tenants $5,000 of that, right? And there might be other markets where you could do 75%. So you have to really work with your local property management company and determine what that is and really kind of push that. But then also it's a little bit of a give and take, right? You don't want it to be onerous on your tenant base either. So if you say, okay, that's really going to push, we're going to get some real pushback on this, you can also back off of it, right? Instead of 50%, you say, all right, 40. That's still 40% more than what you're collecting before doing it, right? Before, all these properties were just eating that cost. And so, if you look at that, nothing else from this podcast, look at doing the water and the sewer reimbursements with your tenants. And I think you'll see it as a big boost for your property.
Yeah, it's a great strategy. And I love how you conservatively underwrite it over 18 months. I see people's underwriting where it's like 100% from day one. Like, no, it's not going to happen.
Yeah, I love how these underwriting sheets are, right? Sometimes you have to spread some of these things out over 1, 2, 3 years, right? You have to be realistic about when you're going to see the pop and how long it's going to take to kind of ramp that up. And that goes with rents too, right? If you're looking at rent, you can't just push rent day one. It takes, and you can't just update 100% of the units the first week. All that stuff takes time, and it's the same thing with other income as well.
Yeah. What are 2 lesser known tactics that you implement to increase income?
Well, I just gave you my big one. So the other one that we're really kind of starting to see some traction on is really charging the pet rent. I mean, let's be honest. A lot of people have pets. Now there's, the service animal versus a real pet. And I'm not going to get into the laws behind that. Right. But, just charging that additional $25 a month in pet rent. Now this is not a pet deposit. You should still charge a pet deposit because we know that the pet is going to probably mess the apartment up or mess on the apartment. And everybody kind of knows what I mean by that. And you're going to have to clean that up. I'm talking about pet rent. And you can determine that usually based on breed, right? Like the bigger the pet, the bigger the rent's going to be, because the more likely it is that pet's going to probably destroy something, right? And most people, they love their pets. They're a part of the family, And so, and we respect that. And as such, they're willing to pay that to keep the animal there versus having to give it away before moving in. So pet rent is a big one that we're kind of pushing. The other thing too, and going back to utilities, right? Pest and trash too. Now this is, once again, you have to look at your market, right? Can your tenant base support an additional rent pop? Now they're paying part of their water and sewer. Now they're paying a part of their trash. Now they're paying a part of their pest. But if it can support it, and some of the properties that we've done, especially in Atlanta, we're within the first 18 months, we're introducing all those new fees. And then on top of that, so the other income is funny. When you buy a property from, say a local mom and pop, or maybe from a third party that's not doing a great job, the other income is usually low. Right. So you can just say, okay, hey, I'm looking at it based on similar properties that we own, or based on similar properties in the area that we're familiar with. They are just not collecting the fees that they're supposed to. And we're not even talking about utilities and pests and all this other stuff. We're just talking about the regular late fees, application fees, month-to-month fees, and the NSF fees. And so if you can just get tight management in there, within the first 6 months, you're going to see a boost in your other income numbers, because you're just you're being more aggressive with collection of fees that you should be collecting. And so I always tell people, just get in there and get tighter management around what you're doing and how you're interacting with your tenants. You can start extracting more of those fees out.
Yeah, absolutely. We've definitely seen huge opportunities there.
Yep.
So we talked about kind of implementing this strategy. Who's you've got your property manager that's implementing it, and what are the guidelines that you give them to kind of implement that?
Are you talking about in terms of timeline, or in terms of what our expectations are in terms of the actual money that they collect, or
timeline, guidelines, the whole gamut, what it looks like when you say you want to increase the other income in these certain categories? What kind of guidelines you give them?
So it's very important, I cannot stress this enough, that you work with your property management company prior to takeover and aligning your internal underwriting budget with what they can actually, do on the property, right? Those two need to be aligned. In a lot of cases, they're not, right? You're over here, not everybody, not you in particular, but a lot of syndicators, right, might be aggressive over here. And the property management company, in a lot of ways, they sandbag you on their budgets. So you have to find some happy medium. Okay, maybe it's not this, maybe it's not that, but it's somewhere in the middle, right? You need to determine what that is before day one, right? As long as you guys can all agree to the plan, and then you just it's like trust but verify, right? You've got to trust that they're doing what they're supposed to, but you need to verify that they're actually doing it too, right? In terms of timeline, like I said, about 18 months is usually the rule of thumb as to, this is when I want all of this to kind of ramp up. So it should be kind of like this, right? To where then it kind of plateaus, unless just some other random fee that comes along to the market, which I'm not even sure what that could be. But it's important that you work that out ahead of time and then just verify that they're doing it, right? And there's always going to be budget variances. Why didn't this happen this month? Oh, okay, well, this, and this didn't happen. There wasn't enough renewals, or we didn't have any units to lease up this month for whatever reason, right? Maybe you're 100% occupied. There's nothing to lease. Well, in that case, you're not going to keep seeing that ramp up, at least on the utility reimbursements, because there's just not new people that you can get onto that program. So I think it's just a healthy, every week you need to be talking with your property management company and keeping them on track with your budget overall. And that includes other income.
And are you targeting a certain percentage of other income for each property? Let's say 10%, 8%. Is there a standard, or every property is different?
I think it's every property is different, right? Because, and I'm going to go back, I was thinking about this question, you send them ahead of time, right? And I really can't peg a percentage. I'm going to tell you why, right? Not only is every property different, but every area is different too, right? It's important to kind of go back to my earlier statement, which is, I can say, hey, I want to do water, sewer, pest, trash, all these new fees, right? But if everybody in the submarket isn't doing that, guess what? You're not going to be able to do it either, right? Because people are going to start saying, well, these guys are nickel and diming me. I'm going to go to the property down the street that's not going to charge me all these fees, right? They're just going to charge me straight up rent, right? So you have to also figure out what's happening in the market to really kind of figure out if there's a way to juice it. And then from there, you got to have to kind of figure out how much can we increase it, right? And that's another discussion that you have to have with your property management company. It's important to leverage their expertise in these markets. And that's really, let's be honest, right? And especially, we all invest outside of our backyard. You have to trust that they know the market, that they know what the comps are doing, what they're charging, and how much they're charging. And then you can go out and develop a plan, right? But just like rent, right? You're probably trying to pop things 5 to 10% year one, and then it's probably going to taper off after that, anywhere from 1 to 3% moving forward. Now with coronavirus, who knows? We all might just be going flat for the next year or two, but in better times, that was how we were underwriting deals.
Yeah, that's great advice. Kyle, I'm going to pass it to you.
All right, let's do it. Ben, we ask every guest this final question. What is your asset management superpower?
Asset management superpower. I think I tend to gravitate more towards investor relations. Asset management is a combination of working with the property management company and doing all the things that the investors expect you to do, right? From communications to distributions to monthly updates to K1s and answering questions about taxes. That's within our firm, Disrupt Equity, that's where I've gravitated towards, because a lot of the investors are my friends and colleagues, and I want to take care of them. I want to answer their questions. I want to make sure that, they understand what we're doing and why we're doing it. And Neil Bertrand, who's our asset manager, handles more on the property management side. So that's I've tended to gravitate towards that because I like doing that. Have I hopped on weeklies and crunch numbers? Absolutely. You have to understand the whole gamut of the process. But that's what I tend to deal with, just because I like having those interactions with our investors.
All right, perfect. Well, Ben, thanks for coming on the show and talking to us about generating income. Today, I learned a couple of things. RUBS, I think, is the biggest boost in other income for sure, is something you need to take a look at, but make sure that the market can support it. Pet rent was another one. And then the biggest one is just tightening up on management, making sure that they're charging the fees that they should be, like the NSFs, the late fees, even application fees and things like that, because those can definitely add up. So if you can tell the listeners where they can find out more about you.
Yeah, absolutely. You can check me out, Ben, at disruptequity.com, and you can check our website at disruptequity.com.
Perfect. All right. Thanks, everyone, for listening in. Again, if you like this episode, please head over to iTunes or Stitcher. Give us a like, subscribe, and a review so we continue to grow the podcast. And we'll talk to everyone next week.
Thanks, guys.
Hey, everyone. Thanks again for tuning in. We really appreciate your support. If you're interested in learning more about APT Capital Group and speaking to someone on our team, click on the link and schedule a call with us. We're here to help, and we'd be excited to speak with you and get to know more about you and your goals. Talk to you soon.